the super slim PlayStation 3. They released the original PlayStation 3 way back in November 16th, 2006. The console took quite a few years to get out of their high price and their lack of polished third-party titles, but in the end they came back with a vengeance. The super slim The super slim model is 20% smaller and 25% lighter than the outgoing slim model, and it features a manual sliding disc tray. This one had an oval-like design, and it actually shows these very smooth lines on the top, and it's all kind of made out of plastic, which is fine. And it has like this piano black front cover, back cover. It all encompasses a type of almost Blu-ray player, which it is. This is smooth to the touch as well and feels good in the hand. And with this oval-like design, it slowly grows on you like a saucer in the sky, and I want to believe. It would probably look better upright and save some space, but if your entertainment center is only so big, it can kind of slide right in, which is really nice. It's not as thick as a PS5 model. They did include a free stand with the 12GB model, but I would really refrain from buying that model because this model included a 500GB with the Assassin's Creed bundle. I can safely say it's well worth it. And if you do want a stand, you can just go to Amazon. You can get one for really cheap there as well. And I think they could have probably made it a little smaller, but I think they wanted to still improve the thermals when they made it a bit slimmer, super slim, maybe improve some of the dynamics in this machine. This super slim model released late in 2012. You can kind of say that they really did try to kind of send the PS3 into new light right before the new PS4. And I think that was a really smart move of them, and that was pretty awesome of Sony to release this machine all spiffied up and fully future-proofed for the next decade, as this one almost is 10 years old. And they did make this whole cover manual, so it would last a little longer, where the motorized one might not work in a few years. Who's to say? I think the manual is a little less sleek, nice. Let me tell you, it probably will last you a lifetime like this has. Oh man, the controller. So this little bad boy here, the classic Dualshock 3 controller, feels okay in the hand. Not too comfortable. You might have controller fatigue or extended period of time. Yeah, they've had this tried and true controller for the past 3 generations of the PS3, PS2, and PS1, and they did add thumbsticks during the PS2 era. And they added motion, 6-axis motion, to the PS3, took out the vibrations for a hot minute there, but added it back when they realized that was a dumb idea, since even DualSense has these crazy cool vibrations that you can feel walking on water, sand. Well, you're not Jesus, but pulling back an arrow string, you can feel the vibrations. So obviously vibrations are important. Even the triggers are a little weird. They kind of slip off your hand, so they're not great for first-person shooters. So in Call of Duty, if you aim down the barrel, you use L1 and R1 instead of L2 and R2. PS4 era, they had L2 and R2 because they have actual trigger fingers, where this is kind of like half-baked. One other thing I kind of realized, like, I just had them in my living room over time, and even just having them sitting there, they almost start to like have this weird grease residue. And you have to clean it off once in a while, but it's just very odd sometimes. And this is even like the V2 controller, or as they call it, the A2 on the back of the controller. So it's probably the most up-to-date, newest controller they ever made. And it's almost like a matte finish on it. It's not as glossy as the other ones. Yeah, you find just a little bit of grease that kind of just melts away. These are pretty tried and true. Sometimes you can get stick drift, and that's even a current issue even today. In the PS4 era, I had to replace controllers many times. They're pretty tanky. If you take good care of them, you probably won't have any issues, but you most likely will if you're playing Call of Duty Zombies all the time on your fat PS3. Yeah, this is a pretty standard controller here, and they finally updated it with the PS4 and obviously the DualSense on the PS5. Yeah, and this felt okay in the hands. It's a little bit better for people that have smaller mandibles, but in Japan they always preferred the smaller controller, and even the Xbox at the time didn't do too well there because the old Duke, they call it, on the Xbox original, that controller was beefy. Didn't really go well over there in Japan, and I think even the DualSense is great for smaller hands even. But yeah, this little thing, the tiny little guy here, a little bit of controller fatigue, but yeah, if you're okay with putting down the controller to go outside after a few hours, then it's totally fine too. You can actually still use the PS4 and even the PS5 controller on the PS3, which is really sweet, and I'm so glad that they add that feature back and they kind of support older consoles, because yeah, if this thing has controller fatigue, hook up a PS4 controller to it. Hook up even a PS5 controller if you're really daring. If you just go into the Bluetooth settings and you check accessory, you click on accessory and you just add a new device, and you can register up to 7 controllers and you can have a blast with all your friends. And if you have older PS4 controllers or a PS5, you can just bring that right to the PS3. If these things keep on melting on me, yeah, you can just kind of use those newer controllers for the older system and enjoy all the games with the best controller in hand. You still need one PS3 controller just to go home and to do a certain few features, but other than that button here and to switch your controller settings around, you can really control most games with these controllers, PS4 and PS5. Some games don't support the newer controllers, but it's very, very slim. You can find most games are supported. And they did even release the PlayStation Move controllers as well, and those were fun for a time. They had a camera and everything, and you could kind of use motion. I like the Wii.
You can see right here, I'm getting ready to serve. All I do is throw that ball up in the air, and when I, oh, jeez, and there goes the tennis racket. I didn't have it on there.
That was cool, and even to this day, the PSVR uses the PlayStation Move controllers, which is really quite interesting. It's a really cool idea to use older systems. You can really do most things on this console. You can put in USB flash drives and watch all of your pirated movies. Watch Solar Opposites on this thing. You can do anything with like that. You can even play songs on this. You can play anything. And obviously you can watch Netflix, YouTube. You can even surf the web. But over time, I think that one's kind of getting a bit older, and you can't even go on Google Drive anymore to watch your pirated movies. And obviously you can play games. And funny enough, you could actually load Linux on this originally, and Sony was totally up for it. They had an other OS feature, and they've had that in for a few years there. They did take it out later on in the generation. They were sent a lot of lawsuits because that was a feature that they were missing, and they promised that feature, and a lot of people wanted that feature back. Strangely, they took that out probably because of piracy reasons or something, but you can really hack these bad boys up and probably play any console game you want and load up a disc or even plug in a flash drive these days. You can mod them quite easily. As for backwards compatibility, you can actually play PS2 games on the 20GB model and the 60GB model of the fat generation, which is the original generation. That's quite impressive for its time. It had a tiny little PS2 emulation kit, and that was hardware related, and that was within the big fat one. So I guess they could fit that in that big box there, right? But after time, they removed it after the 60GB model. You can't find that PS2 emulation anymore on the Slim and the Super Slim. But you can still play PS1 games, which is super killer, and you can even enjoy all of your classics, right? Like Medieval and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. But this PS3 system really is quite the system to own, and if you can find a 20GB or 60GB model, they might be a bit more pricier. You will be able to play PS2 games, the full range of them, and they run really well, I've heard. But if you want something really reliable for PS3 era, get the Super Slim. As for ports, you do get 2 USBs in the front, and they are nice and flat, so you can plug in any fat USB or anything you like. As the PS4 Pro and the PS4, their wafer design, their sandwich design, doesn't always fit every USB, and I've had a couple that don't fit, but obviously the PS4 Pro had 3 USBs, so I can plug one in the back if I needed to. These 2 USBs are great. And for the back, it has an Ethernet jack, an HDMI in, an optical port, and an AV multi port, and as well as an AC port. And it's funny, they've always had the brick itself built into the system, and it's really annoying with the Xbox 360 and such. You have a big tank of a brick slaying around. Where do you put that thing in your entertainment center? It's really hard to fit anything sometimes. But they built it in this one, and they've continued to do that on the PS4 and the PS5. And finally, with the Xbox Series X and S, they finally did incorporate them into the design, so good on Sony. Japan is the masters of practicality. As for upgrades, you can upgrade this hard drive if you wanted a bit more terabytes, as 500 gigabytes are the most you'll ever get in a model. You can put in an 870 EVO and speed up your whole system, and it'll feel substantially faster. It's very easy to upgrade. You just pop off the back, put it in, and it's a little 2.5 inch laptop drive, and it's SATA 2. Pretty sure about that. They do say it's like the older ones had maybe a SATA 1.5 or so, but SATA 2 speeds, I think it's pretty decent. And I think finally the newest PS4s finally have SATA 3 and stuff. PS4 Pro. You can really plug in a really nice 2 terabyte SSD or something like that and enjoy all of your games, as the PlayStation Store is going to close soon. So you better buy all of the new games that you want, that you've never bought before. You will be able to download all of your previous titles and maybe patch them, but generally don't go in thinking that you're going to get any new titles. So make sure you get all the titles you want, unless you can find them on disc. And they've been doing this hard drive feature for a very long time. Even the newest PS5, you can put in a standard M.2 slot, and you can have crazy speeds with that. Even on the PS4 Pro, you can upgrade the hard drive. PS3, you can upgrade the hard drive. Very easy thing to do, and Japan and Sony are all open for that kind of stuff. As for PSN, yeah, the store is going to be closing on July 2nd, 2021. And that just only entails for new purchases. So if you wanted to get something like Last of Us digital download, you might have to just get the disc version after that time and enjoy that later on. If you always had PS Plus, like I did way back before the PS4, and you've constantly gotten newer games, you can download them all to the hard drive, and I've really filled this 500 gigabyte model. Even my terabyte PS4 Pro, I filled that thing up because all new games are way bigger in sizes and stuff. Just make sure you buy the games you want, like Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Powered Battle Cars. I would download that game and make sure you had that one downloaded on the system, or at least downloaded and ready to download later on. And strangely, people have reported that they've had issues with patches recently, and I think they're starting to kind of like tear down the whole system. I think they will be able to patch after the store closure, hopefully. For now, just make sure you get all the games that you want on the system, because it's not here for long. And Sony really hasn't mentioned if they're going to do patches after the store closure. But at least you still can have your older downloads going, as there is a lot of good indie games on the system. You might be able to hack it still though, and probably download all your games anyway, but you know, you want to support the developer in the end. And for now, PSN is free to play on the online still. You've always been able to play PSN for free, and they're continuing that going forward. They're not closing that down yet, probably in the near future, but for now you can enjoy all of your games, all of your online games at least, free to play. So you don't have to have PS Plus to do this. PS4 and onward, they charge online multiplayer, but you do get a couple free games a month, which is nice, and they did drop support for the PS3 last year for free games. Generally, it's quite impressive selection on here. And as for my thoughts, I really think this is an awesome system to buy. It has full backwards compatibility in the terms of if you have a PS5, you can play all the PS4 games and obviously PS5 games, but the PS3 will always be a missing feature of the PS5 where they can't play those games yet, and I don't know if they'll ever add that in the future. It's still an awesome system, and you do have PS Now, and you can actually still play like PS3 games like online through PS4 and PS5 and even PC, and that can only be great for so long, and that's still online, and it depends on your latency and everything. But if you buy this thing costs $100 or maybe a couple hundred to a few $100 to get a few games with it as well. Yeah, just get the PS3 system and a controller, go to maybe your local EB Games if that's still around in your area, and pick it up, because there's only so many of these around, and it's one of these generations that you can't really miss. There's been a lot of good games on the system. It really is a tank of a system, and I'm very glad Sony released this last generation bad boy. They released it 1 year before the PS4, and I'm very glad they did, because they ironed out all the kinks of the slim model. Even though I really enjoy this slot loading mechanical disk drive, and it is still a Blu-ray player in all its glory, but 20% smaller and 25% lighter is a very good thing. I really do recommend the PS3, and really when you want to flesh out your retro collection and make sure you don't miss a whole console generation, make sure to pick up the PS3. I really do recommend the PlayStation 3 by Sony. So we're doing it after dark, as the name entails, and let's move on to the gaming here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.